me, you feel like you're in this never-ending cycle of just like there's this massive graveyard of just like all these half-finished projects and things that you decided at one point you were gonna do and then you just didn't stick to it. And that just starts to build up within you. It starts to just become this visceral feeling of guilt and shame. All the broken promises you made to yourself, you told yourself you were gonna do and you just didn't do it. And you start to feel so shameful and bitter and angry towards yourself. But it's just thinking about it wrong. So today's gonna be a little different. I've been doing some thinking. I was also watching an interview that made me start to think about what I'm doing, my challenges, and what this series is really all about. I often forget that I struggle with severe ADHD. It's been a huge problem in my life. I've never been able to stay organized and stay on task. I get hyper-focused for small bouts of time, but it's something that the struggle that I have is in trying to be forthright with myself and not make excuses. I often chalk up a lot to laziness and lack of determination, lack of discipline, and I get wrapped up in a lot of shame, guilt, and anger, and I get really down on myself. And I think part of growing is learning to recognize your shortcomings, and I think it's about time I stopped looking at this series and this challenge of trying to stick to something for 90 days. Rather than looking at it from a negative perspective, I think it's important to give myself some credit and to, how do I want to say this? To approach this with a deeper level of understanding and not just beat up on myself and chalk it up to laziness, but to understand that I do struggle with ADHD. I do have an attention deficit, and I think that's pretty clear. It's almost comical watching my videos, and I think I'm learning more about myself as I've started to do this. I'm learning more about just how stereotypically ADHD I really am. My brain goes in a million different directions just in one in one session. The amount of different pathways and things my brain is exploring, it's really incredible in a lot of ways, but it can make it difficult to focus and to get something done. But it's a superpower in a lot of ways. It's both. I think it's both a strength and a weakness. I know I'm not alone in this diagnosis. I know that there are lots of other creatives and lots of other just people in general that feel this way. Our attention has been hijacked by social media companies, by marketing firms. We are constantly barraged by information, and not only barraged by information, but information that people are trying to convince us is important and we need to pay attention to it. And with that, our attention spans have diminished drastically, and also just the speed at which information moves now. It's created an ecosystem where long-term focus is not a priority. It's the opposite, actually. It's people and it's companies taking our attention for joyrides and for Disneyland-style roller coasters. And it makes everything else seem boring, and it makes normal life seem boring, and we're always just kind of looking for that next thing, that next dopamine hit. I'm not the first person to talk about this. I know this is widely accepted, but I think it's an important part of my journey in trying to overcome this modern affliction of attention deficit, of ADHD, in order to accomplish something that requires long-term commitment and showing up day after day after day. Me personally, my ADHD, I've never been able to stay organized. You should have seen my folders in my backpack as a kid. It was just crumpled up pieces of paper. Nothing was ever organized. I mean, even still to this day, I really struggle with organization. I struggle with time management. I also, on the flip side, struggle with hyperfixation, right? That's one of the interesting parts of ADHD, right? Is that we kind of find these things to hyperfixate on, and they're not usually the things that maybe we feel like we should be focused on, but we just can't help but focus on these things. Like for me, I've had this golf obsession. I've been absolutely obsessed with golf for the past year and a half. I went to the range every single day for about a year, and I was just head over heels obsessed. When I knew in reality I should probably be working on music, and I should probably be doing the thing that I know will bring me the most long-term fulfillment, I instead went to play golf every day because I was just obsessed, and it was just this new thing that is so, and don't get me wrong, I still am thoroughly obsessed. It's a beautiful sport, and it's just kind of endlessly complicated, and there's so many facets to the golf swing, and it's so much fun, and it's a great way to get outside. There are a lot of benefits, but my hyperfixation on it was probably not healthy. I even went as far as getting a job at a simulator place. That place also fired me on my last day because I was hitting balls on the simulator when I probably should have been mopping the floor or something like that. Shout out to T-Box. Big old you. But one of the biggest things about this project, I'll call it, is proving to myself that I can decide with my forebrain to do something, and I can show up for it every day and stick to it and allow those results that can only come from daily progress. There is progress, and there is a level that you can reach that can only come from daily practice and showing up every single day for something. You start to accrue skills, you start to see things in a different way. You are able to fail, and you have an iteration process, and there are just things that you can only attain if you work at something every single day. And when it's not something that you're required to do for a job, it is very difficult to manage because it's just you deciding that you want to do this thing. But there are also a million other things that you could decide to do at any moment. I could decide to go play golf right now. I could decide to turn on my PS4, which I could go play video games, which I've actively kept my PS4. It is in my truck since we moved out here to Fremont, and I have actively kept my PS4 in my truck. I haven't brought it up here. I honestly kind of hope it gets stolen at this point. Because I know if it's up here, I'm going to choose to play Rocket League or play Call of Duty a lot of the time. And it's not great. It's a huge thing that I love doing, but I know I have more important things to do. So I have to develop systems to work with myself and work around myself and get myself into this chair every single day doing what I'm doing right now, which is working at this skill of music production and songwriting, creating content, and just doing what I know I need to be doing. But I think the whole point of what I wanted to talk about today is, I think for people like me who struggle with ADHD, it is important to give yourself grace. It's really important to give yourself grace and not be so hard on yourself that you end up actually fueling the ADHD. You end up actually fueling all of these behaviors because you're not really in tune with yourself, and you're lying to yourself and telling yourself, oh, I'm only not doing this because I'm lazy. I'm only not doing this because I'm not disciplined. It's really important that you take a step back and recognize, no, this is actually part of who I am. I'm someone who has a very wide attention span, and I struggle with narrowing that into something. And I think that can be a beautiful thing as well. It can be beautiful to just want to experience so many different things in life and not just have this singular narrow focus. So I think going forward, I want to continue talking about this from a new angle and try and dive into the distinction between when I'm just being lazy or when I'm really battling and struggling with the ADHD within myself, when my attention is going elsewhere, and why that is. That's the next level for anyone that's struggling with ADHD, is digging into those deeper layers of actually why is it that your attention is so all over the place? Is it from unresolved trauma in your childhood? Is it from your diet? Is it from environmental factors? Is it from people in your life. There are so many different things that go into it. And trust me, like I can even feel myself, I feel hesitant to even be saying these things because there's a huge part of my brain that just wants to go, oh no, you're just making excuses for yourself. You're just making excuses. You just need to get to work every single day and do the thing. And this shouldn't be so hard for you. But that wouldn't be actually honest. Like this is really, really challenging and really difficult for me to show up every day and do this thing. It's not easy at all. There's always resistance. There's always feelings inside of me that are saying, no, we don't want to do this today. We should do something else. And even when I sit down to actually do this, my brain often goes in so many different directions. Okay, so I think the moral of this story is just being realistic with yourself on what your shortcomings actually are, not blaming yourself for things that are outside of your control, and accepting yourself for who you are. Because once you accept who you are, you can learn to figure out what actually works for you and what systems you need to put into place in order to be effective and to actually do the things that you want to do and do those things that require showing up every day. For me personally, I have to lock my phone down all day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. I use an app called Opal, not sponsored by them or anything. I'm not sponsored by anybody. And it locks down my phone so I can't go on YouTube. I can't go on Instagram. I can't go on TikTok. I can't go on any of the apps that I've deemed to be distracting. The thing that I've left open for myself is Spotify, so I can listen to music or I can listen to a podcast while I'm getting stuff done. That's fine. But the rest of it, I had to not even give myself the option. And I've had to find systems and ways of, like the PS4, for example, that's still in my truck. I had to just not give myself the option. And I think that has come from a level of just accepting that, like, okay, this is who I am. I'm not just going to beat myself over the head all day, trying to just do it out of sheer willpower when I can use systems and I can put systems in place as a fail-safe when maybe I'm not able to just will myself to do something or will myself to not do something. Because something that people with ADHD will relate to is a lot of this happens on a very subconscious level that you're not entirely aware of. You're not fully aware. You're not making these conscious decisions to go on your phone and scroll for, an hour, 2 hours. It just happens. It just happens, and then suddenly the day's gone by. And so a lot of what needs to happen is you need to find systems and strategies where you can give yourself the absolute best chance of success. And I just think that all starts with acceptance and understanding who you are. If I were to recommend one book to people with ADHD that has helped me the most, it would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book. And it's the way he thinks about habits. It's really interesting, right? Because as people with ADHD, we really struggle to make habits, to consciously make habits and to decide on what our habits should be and to actually ingrain them and actually stick to them. We usually get to maybe the week or 2 week mark and then, things just go awry. And if you're like me, you feel like you're in this never ending cycle of just there's this massive graveyard of just all these half finished projects and things that you decided at one point you were going to do and then you just didn't stick to it. And that just starts to build up within you and just it starts to just become this visceral feeling of guilt and shame within you for all of the stuff that you told yourself, all the broken promises you made to yourself that you told yourself you were going to do and you just didn't do it. And you start to feel so shameful and bitter and angry towards yourself. But it's thinking about it wrong. Anyways, James Clear book, the way he talks about habits and the most effective way to create habits, it's not just through goal setting. Setting goals is, I think, overrated. It's systems and putting the right systems into place to give yourself the absolute best chance of success. So I just want to encourage anyone out there that is watching this. If you are watching this, I imagine that you probably have something in the back of your mind you've been wanting to do for so long, but something is stopping you from doing it. Or maybe it's your lack of self-belief that is stopping you from doing it. And you're convinced that you're probably just too lazy or you don't have the willpower to do it. And I think I want this series to be an example to anyone out there that feels that way. I want this to be an example to you that it can be done. It absolutely can be done. I'm telling you, I've been on Adderall prescriptions on and off my entire life. I've been told by so many therapists, prescribed, what's the right word? Diagnosed. I've been diagnosed several times by different therapists and psychiatrists that I have ADHD, right? But I think the biggest thing that stops me from doing anything is purely in just this, like the graveyard I spoke about. It's this weight that we carry with us of all the dead bodies, all of the half-finished projects, the unfinished songs, the habits left in the dust, the things that we told ourselves we would do but didn't. All of that just is this giant weight. It just becomes this huge weight, and it comes with you to the desk every day. And when you sit down to try and do anything, you're doing it with that weight. So I think just acceptance in and of itself is one way to just start to unhook yourself from all of that weight that you're pulling. And I think that belief, it starts in your belief, starts in the beliefs you hold about yourself. You need to start to question your beliefs. Are you actually a lazy person? Are you? Or when you actually want to get something done, do you do it? Can you actually get it done? I think that it all starts with the belief, and then creating systems around yourself, knowing your limitations, understanding that you have certain limitations, but you can actually give yourself an advantage. You can give yourself the best shot possible at doing what you want to do. Just release yourself from that anger, from that fear, from that frustration and guilt and shame that you hold, and point at yourself as much as you can. I didn't have a script or anything like that for this. I'm just talking, but I think it's really important. I think it's really important not only for me, I think it's important for people that are like me in this situation that are trying to accomplish something. So if there is one thing that I want you to take away from this video, there is a path forward for you. You can start to lessen the load of the weight that you carry. You can start to love and appreciate yourself enough to where when you sit down to do something, you are not overburdened by shame, guilt, and anger, and you actually start to believe in yourself and believe that you can do something, as opposed to believing that you just can't and therefore shouldn't. In the wise words of Rob Schneider, you can do it! I'll see you tomorrow.